have a number of people from down under joining us as well, including Andrew, who were very kind of you to join us this evening from Australia. So, just so to set the scene, I will start proceedings off, and then we'll have each of us having our own little sections, but interjecting, perhaps making too much noise, but hopefully it will be really valuable to the people joining us today. And today I'm joined by Karen Reyburn from Profitable Firm, James Ashford from GoProposal, and Andrew van der Beek from Illuminate Partners in Australia. So what I just want to do, hopefully everyone can hear us, and but this is recorded and will be up online very shortly. Oh, yeah. Somebody's raised their hands, so bear with me a second. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A and we will get to those shortly. So for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Vipul. I'm MD of AdvanceTrack, Chartered Accountant, Chartered Tax Advisor. Trained with a 4-partner firm before going to EY and KPMG, setting this up, well, 18 years ago. It's crazy. All right, so do you guys just want to quickly say hello and say who you are? I know I've kind of said, but yeah, if you just kind of say what you do and how you help people, and then we'll get going. So shall I start with Andrew?
Sure, absolutely. That sounds great. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew. I am in Australia, hence the very black outside and the fact that I get to drink whiskey right now whilst all you are staring at me, probably wanting one yourself. I run an accounting firm on the Mornington Peninsula down the south of Victoria. It's a beautiful part of the world. We're called Illuminate. We are a ragtag bunch of, we call ourselves a bit of misfits, but we work predominantly with small businesses. We're 100% cloud. There's a bunch of awards we've won, but really for us, what gets our blood flowing is working with clients and helping to understand their purpose for their business, and then delivering the value of that subsequently through our services and everything. Good to be here.
Great, thank you. James?
Hi, my name is James Ashford. I'm the founder of GoProposal, which is pricing and proposal software that enables accountants to charge consistently and to ensure they're profitable. And that was born out of our accountancy firm, which was called My Accountancy Place, now called MAP, which I turned up as a client to start with, and realized they had kind of this challenge with how do they have this conversation with clients. We solved the problem for those, and then through that I became a director of the firm. And Paul became a director of GoProposal, and we've been growing ever since. And we just share what we're doing. We never say we're perfect. We're far from it. But we've kind of figured out a few things I think that work, and we're always willing to share those and help as many people as we can on this journey.
Fantastic. Great. Karen?
I'm Karen. I'm the owner of PF, and we're a creative agency that works exclusively and only with accountants, which I set that up because as a qualified accountant myself, having worked with accountants and accountancy firms for years, I just kept seeing people say, this is what you need to do with marketing. This is, blogs you need to write, videos you need to do, website pages you need to create. And then accountants were kind of left on their own to, figure out somebody to help them do that. So I created the agency so that we can not only help accountants understand how marketing works for them and for their clients, but to actually, for those who need the help, do that for them. So we have a team that's all over the world, and that has been actually really encouraging during this time. In one way, we haven't changed at all. We're still remote, we're still helping people online, but it's been super encouraging to see how accountants are stepping up to help their clients even more. And a big part of what we do is help accountants to take the very best of who they are and then show it visibly so that their prospects can understand it, so that the accountants get only the clients they want coming to them. So the best marketing divides, sends away the wrong ones, brings in the best ones, and that's what we do, and that's who we help.
Great, excellent. Okay, so why are we running this webinar? Well, as many of you know, we normally have our own annual conference, and I know James, Karen, you've both spoken at our events in the past, and Andrew, you were due to speak our event this year.
It's all right. I'll be there. I'll be there soon, mate. Not too long.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Well, next May we're back on. So so as a result of that, we always try and share great content with our clients and invited guests that come. And we thought, well, why don't we share that with a much wider group? Hence the reason that we're running this, because particularly at this time, it's very easy to get caught in dealing with the clients and the issues that are in front of us. And, you know, that's the reason. So that's the reason that we're doing it. And, you know, it's fairly obvious that there's a lot of challenges for businesses, clients, and more particularly yourselves as accounting firms. But there are ways to navigate that, and you know, we're carrying on the theme. We had one about a month ago, and we're going on today to kind of say, right, it's about value, or is it about value, or is it values? And I thought I'd start to set the scene by saying, what's the purpose? What gets you up every morning, and why do you do what you do, and how do you translate that in terms of your day-to-day life, professionally or personally? So, you know, and that's my question, really. Is it value or values? But I genuinely think they're interconnected, and hopefully over the next hour or so, we'll get a flavour of what all of our individual thoughts are on that. So, Andrew, I think at this point, you know, I've got some thoughts on this. Be great to hear yours. So I'll stop sharing and let you kind of take charge of the screen and take the mic, so to speak.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for jumping on today. I'm really excited to talk about the topic of value because it's something that's kind of close to my heart in terms of a range of things. Value in terms of my value as a person, value in terms of the value of the service that I deliver, value in terms of what people feel about the services that I deliver, and there's a whole bunch kind of wrapped into that. But I'm going to spend today talking more about the difference between saying something and being something, and what the idea of authenticity kind of, and how being authentic and being comfortable to be yourself actually helps to drive value. But before I do, I did want to share a couple of images. So I'm going to start with this one here. You can see this bit of a GIF here. You've seen a bit of these things on Instagram, right? And it's kind of like the running around with a hand. What I want to talk a bit about here is, this is what we're talking about, this whole expectation versus reality. This is the Instagram versus real life. This is that nailed it kind of thing. And I'm going to go through a few of those different images and slides. You'll see this coming up. Because what I want to touch on is, have you ever had that moment where you've gone to do something and you've been sold on this amazing experience, and then you go through the experience and you realize it's not quite what it was, that behind the scenes it was a kind of bit janky, it was a bit messed up, and you actually came away with potentially an incredibly foul taste in your mouth that maybe if you were set up and told what it was really going to be, you actually wouldn't have had that. So we've got a bit of a slide there. Let's see the next one. This is a lovely one in terms of COVID, expectation versus reality. Obviously, we all thought we were going to get a tan. It turns out we're going to get one on our face instead. I love that one. The next one I'm going to show, this is a bit of expectation versus reality here. Probably what happens at my home as well. My beautiful wife, and then that's probably, actually he's probably haven't got as much hair as I do there as well. If anyone's seen a lovely documentary on the Fire Festival, this is a beautiful little expectation versus reality. That is an incredible, incredible documentary to watch in terms of what people set out to be, what they told people it was going to be, and what it actually was, and being authentic and being honest about stuff. And maybe they could have saved their whole thing if they pulled the pin earlier, but they decided not to. If you haven't watched it, I really recommend you do. This is a nice little one of the expectation of sometimes the image that we project ourselves to be as an accountant and what reality might look like in terms of the accountant. I was going to use the American office, but I realized I probably would have been kicked off the webinar immediately if I did that. So I've decided to use our friend there from the UK. And the last one I want to show you, this is a really personal one for me. So when I started Illuminate, going on 8 years ago now, almost exactly 8 years ago now, I had some experience working with KPMG for a number of years, and I had some experience working with a smaller suburban accountant. And then I had this kind of realization of like, I wasn't necessarily enjoying what it was that I was doing as an accountant, but it was because I just felt like I was doing transactions. I was ticking a box. I was doing a document. And it wasn't until I realized that there was a person behind the business that I was serving that all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's actually quite valuable. So I started this business called Illuminate, but I still had an expectation or an understanding of what I thought an accountant was, what they looked like, what they sounded like, how they acted. And so I started Illuminate with a bit of that realm. I had a business partner who had a similar kind of perspective of me at the time, and away we went. But then progressively over the years, I started to realize that just transitioning to have more of a relationship-based approach with my clients was one step, but I needed to be true to myself. I need to be honest. So here is what I like to call, you could call it a before and after COVID, but this is Andrew before he realized who he was, or when he, before he stopped pretending who he was, and afterwards. And that's me. So we can see there on the left, I don't know if you noticed, there's a beautiful wedding ring. There's a lovely watch there I'm trying to show off. I've got the suit, I've got the shirt, and there's nothing wrong with that image. Absolutely nothing wrong with that image, except that the person inside of that image was sitting there going, I don't really feel all that comfortable. Why am I putting on this suit and this shirt every day? Like, what's going on there? Now, the one on the right there is probably a bit more extreme. You can see that my beard is nowhere near as crazy as that. I made the decision about 5-6 months ago at the start of this year to trim it down because it was just going out of control. But this, for me, is a picture of this expectation versus reality. And just the moment before Illuminate decided to go through what I call our coming out of the closet moment, or a rebranding moment, a story of realizing who we are and acting that out. People would walk up the stairs and they would see myself, not looking like quite the right guy on the right, but looking maybe like this. But all our website and our imagery and all our branding and all our language was talking about the guy on the left. So they assumed when they were coming to interact with Illuminate that that's what they were getting. But when they started interacting with Illuminate, they were getting something different. Now, that different wasn't necessarily bad. It was just different. It wasn't true. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't who we were. And so we went on this journey of saying, well, who are we really? And I don't know if you've ever had to go through that experience in that journey where you've had to say, well, who am I? What I am? Because I feel like sometimes, whilst we can be our worst judge, we can also be our biggest supporter. And we can sometimes assume that we're bigger than we really are. I think it's you're a champion in your own lunchbox or something like that is some of the phrase you can kind of throw out there. So we actually sought out some assistants out there to say, hey, can you just help us express the way that we feel? Because I want to make sure that we're hitting the mark on this. And that was our journey to become the accounting firm that we are today. But also that was a really personal journey for me, where I went through a position of saying, hey, like, maybe I don't have to be that person that everyone else expects. And I want to like double back on this. I have absolutely no issue with people wearing suits and ties and running businesses and looking professional as well as being professional. I have no issue with that at all. What I have an issue is if people are forced to be that when that's not themselves. And as a result, they're not able to live out what their true purpose, their true values, their true approach to life looks like. Because I feel like we really let our communities down with that. I'm going to turn off this image because I think you've stared at that long enough. If you want any more, I've got plenty of beard images. I did completely shave my head bald for charity last year, which was horrific, but I'm going to turn that off for now. So you can see that, I guess, the journey for us at Illuminate was really this transition of like, hey, I'm pretending to be an accountant, to I'm just going to be Andrew, who happens to be really good at accounting, but now I don't have to try and pretend to be anything that I'm not. Now I can walk out and be comfortable in my own skin, and I can start to seek out and I can start to service the clients that I really enjoy working with and the clients that really enjoy working with me. And one of the things I really love to hammer on here is that someone needs you. Someone needs exactly who you are. Someone out there is running a business that only you can service to the point that they need that. But if we're pretending to be someone else at this point in time, if we're trying to utilize an approach or a language or look a certain way or act a certain way, or even use a particular piece of software that we might like, there's a really good proposal software down there, James, you might know of one, that if we all of a sudden acting out this way, we're trying to put an image together that it's not going to hit the mark for that client. And all of a sudden, we're starting to look like everybody else out there. We're starting to act the same. The language we use is the same. The images we use is the same. The software we all use is the same, which isn't a bad thing, but depending on how you use it. And all of a sudden, it's really hard to differentiate who we are because we just become a bit of a mist, a bit of a fuzz, a bit of a nothing. But if you can be true to yourself and be who you are, and I'm not suggesting it's beard and tattoos and things, it's just who you are, your authenticity will start to shine through that mist. And the clients that you attract will be clients that you want to be attracting. And you'll be able to be doing work for them that you want to be able to do work. Now, I wanted to stop and pause here just for a moment and just really touch on Illuminate has the freedom to do this. And myself as a white man in Australia, as a white country, I have a lot of freedom to be able to do this kind of stuff. And I just really wanted to reflect really quickly on the stuff that's going on around the world and how devastated I am that I can see that people of a different color are being treated and prejudiced as a way just because of that. And they don't have the freedoms that I have. It would be absolutely remiss of me for not to stop and reflect on what I've gone through. So I want 100% stand with our brothers and sisters around the world of people of color who are being prejudiced. In Australia, there is an issue with that with Aboriginals, and we know around the world there is as well. So if you are in that state, I hope and pray that you are cared for, loved for, and respected for the person that you are. Unfortunately, we see this around the world as well. So whilst I can stand there and I can say these kind of things are really good, sometimes authenticity is hard. Sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes there's prejudice in place. Sometimes there's trolls out there on LinkedIn who might jump on a post that you say and say something nasty about you, which I experienced recently. But if we allow that to defeat who we are, if we allow that to defeat the person inside, a little bit of that dies. All of a sudden, we start losing that. And there's this lovely phrase I like is forget, don't forget who you truly are. Don't keep pretending who you truly are, who you aren't, because you might forget who you were originally. So this whole idea of like, if we constantly are putting on this mask every day, all of a sudden the mask is all that we know. All of a sudden it is all that we is, and we lose this person behind that. And that person behind that is actually the person that your clients want to have. I want to touch on the amazing women that are out there that are doing some incredible stuff in our industry. They are pushing boundaries. They're doing crazy stuff, and they face some issues out there in terms of like being a strong woman and all of a sudden, can I do this? But what if someone comes back and tells me that I can't? I want to really encourage you and say, you can do that. You have that. And I love seeing our incredible women leading the way. And in Australia, I reckon there's more women leading the thought leading space in genuine thoughts in the accounting industry than there are men, which is really, really cool to see. I want to touch on all the young people out there, the men, the women who are young and up and coming, who are coming all these ideas with technology and innovation. They're enthusiastic, they've got this zest for life. Please don't let that experience of someone telling you to shut your face and sit in the corner be something that stays with you forever. Keep that fire inside of you and keep looking at what it is that you can be doing. But also touching on some of our more wiser kind of people out there, the experience that you've got, don't keep a lid on that sucker. We need to learn that. You've led us to where we are right now. You have incredible broad shoulders that have allowed us to step up where we are. But if you keep that knowledge inside of you, that means that we can't fast forward our ability to serve our clients, and we can't take more innovation on top of that. So I guess what I wanted to touch on here, and when I talk about value, is I'm really talking about your value and your purpose and your understanding of who you are. But then once you connect to that, as an advisor in a relationship-based service delivery that we do as accountants and advisors out there, is that we have to be ourselves. We have to connect to that because everybody out there needs someone, and we connect human to human. So if I'm not being myself, and if I'm not being the human that I am, then there's going to be someone out there that's just running around going, what is going on? Have you ever picked up that client that's had like 6 accountants in the last 3 years, and you're like, oh gee, I don't know about this guy. He constantly changes accountants, blah blah, and then they don't leave you for the next 10 years. They've been looking for you for those last 3 or 4 years, and maybe it's been that they just haven't been able to find it because there's people out there who are not being authentic, or maybe you need to speak to Karen about how you can get your marketing material out there and share a bit more about who you are. But I found it really incredible over our journey of the number of clients that have come into the realm of Illuminate who have had issues with previous accountants. And I'd like to say that that's not necessarily an issue with the accountant. It's just that they weren't a match. They weren't a good fit. And as a result of that, they didn't see the value in what that person was delivering. That accountant was doing great tax work, delivering good advice, maybe suggesting good software, but they didn't fit. It was just not working. Until they walked into Illuminate, and then they fit because we were the people that they were potentially destined to be working with. So I guess I'm going to finish up on that whole idea of this idea of like, if you keep hiding who you are, there is a business out there is a person out there is looking for someone like you. And as soon as you do, you start becoming and separating yourself from the mist. You become that light out there, and you become much more easily identified. Someone needs you so they can stop shopping for accountants. You need to understand that your value is who you are, not what you do. However, you need to respect that your value to others is the way you do that. So we can't run around and be like, you know, arrogant and this is who I am and blah, 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 without understanding that there's a person on the other side of that potential transaction. So please, that's what I've got for you. I think I've rolled in for about 15 odd minutes. If you've got any feedback, throw it at me. But I'll just finish with my favorite line of them all is be yourself, because everyone else is taken. What do you reckon, gang? How's that?
I just want to keep listening to. I just want to keep listening to you. And
Yeah.
that was amazing.
That was great.
Like just really great, man. I just got a question because I know this comes up a lot with the accountancy firms that I speak to, and what you've managed to do is kind of uncouple yourself from some of that thinking that people feel they need to be in that box for certain reasons, and you've managed to detach yourself. And that's kind of one of the biggest messages that I help firms with, like, just let all that stuff go, man. But it's easy for me to say because I'm not there doing it. What were some of your fears in doing that? What was kind of your biggest fear, if you had any, in kind of becoming you?
Look, there were three main fears that I faced, two really negative fears and one quite a positive fear. So the first fear was, what if I do this and no one likes it? So what if all of a sudden I go, you know what, stuff it. We're going to do this way. We're going to talk this way. Actually, not even this way. We're just going to talk the way that we talk. We're just going to express ourselves in that way. What if no one likes it and all our clients leave and we're left with nothing? Massive, massive fear. Second fear was, what if we do this and it turns out it actually isn't who we are, and we were just listening to some bearded bloke on a website, on a webinar that told us I need to be more like ourselves. So I tried to create an image of what I thought everybody wanted, and I wasn't actually being true myself. So that was the second fear of, like, maybe we're missing the mark. The last fear, which is kind of more of a positive kind of fear, my fear was, if I don't do this, if we don't make this decision, if we don't decide to change the way we're projecting ourselves out, then we'll just be comfortable in our skin. What regret will I have down the track? Well, I sit back and I look at it and say, you know what? I really wish I made that call 10 to 15 years ago. And I was lucky that I'm 34. So I was like just under, I was 29 at the time when we did it. So like I had plenty of years to make mistakes and stuff up. And I totally appreciate that other people are in situations where they have business partners and things. But I think the biggest fear for me was this regret, this potential regret of not giving it a crack. And knowing that, hey, what's the worst that can happen? Some people don't like it. Okay, that's fine. I'm sure I'll be able to find somewhere out there. There are thousands and thousands of businesses that need an accountant. All I need is like 10, and then I'm fine. So like understanding what that drop would look like and the risk and what I needed to make sure I could continue on, that made it a lot more easier to make that decision.
That's great, Andrew. I mean, I can empathize with that. I was early 30s, deciding what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I could have done I was offered a partnership, and the next 30 years of my life, turning up to that same desk every day, doing the same thing and not being who I am and doing what I do. I just felt I couldn't put myself through it. So I can totally empathize. And I've spoken to other people and they say, well, you know what, the money would have been great. And don't get me wrong, it would have been. But I wouldn't have enjoyed it, and I'd have been that frustrated. I wouldn't have been an employee, I'd have been an owner of the business, but I'd have felt a bit like that frustrated person who hasn't been able to serve the people in the way that the reason that I even came into the profession. And I'll share a little bit more about that a little bit later, but I think that's fantastic.
Mate, that's great. And there's two things that come out of that. The number one thing you said is, like, in that space, it wasn't who you are. We've been hiring a bunch of people at Illuminate. We realized pre-COVID, we thought we were running at 80% capacity. Turns out we're at like 99.99% capacity. And therefore we've been working till 2 a.m. for 7 days a week for ages. Yeah. I've been interviewing a lot of people, and I reckon every second one at least has said something about the place they work doesn't allow them to be who they are. And they want to be somewhere, and they want to work somewhere where they can be 100% themselves. And there was this one particular woman that I met and I spoke with, and it broke my heart. Like, she's just been beaten down over the years because she hasn't been able to be herself. And she, by all means, and everything that we did from our, testing and all things that we do, she's an incredible accountant. Unfortunately, we just didn't have a role that was going to work with her. But there are so many people out there that are looking for a place that allows them to be who they are. And now that's a combination of, one, making sure you have a workplace that is open and accepting of others, but also it makes sure that you have a workplace that people can see, well, what does it look like to work there? And it's perfectly fine if it's suits and ties and super professional to, shorts, t-shirts and thongs and not professional, sorry, flip-flops, whatever you call them.
A little different in the UK. Yeah.
That's okay. That's 100% okay. And I think the second one there as well is like, would you rather die rich or die happy? Let's assume you die on the same date. I'd rather be happy. Like, I reckon I would. I mean, you can make good money still and be authentic.
Yeah.
Trust me, you can.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think the other thing is, you will put 110% into something that you're passionate about, and substantially less. I don't know the number, but it will not be at the same level. Your energy will be very, very different.
Well, the care that our team has for our clients and each other is just phenomenal. Absolutely. Like we have during COVID, we've got a lot more freedom here in Australia than you guys have had, but we've had team members drive an hour to deliver food to someone. We've had all kinds of crazy stuff to ensure that we can remain connected, appreciated. Like I was working some really long hours. The team recognized that. They looked after me when I was trying to hide that I didn't need help because I wanted to be strong for them. When you have that kind of space and the people work there, believe and they can be themselves, they will be willing to do more for you than if you just demand it of them.
Yes. Yeah. And it's setting that example and being open. I think that's the key. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think I was just going to say, I think the fear thing is such a big factor. I really appreciate that Andrew mentioned that, because I was thinking about when you were saying that, when James asked that, that's what, when I'm talking to accountants, and I'm sure those of you who are listening in, like, even though you receive this, you're like, yes, I want to truly be myself and I want my firm to show that. And I want the kind of clients who do that. There is a genuine fear. And I think it's right to recognize that fear and say, this is the fear that I have. And one of the things that I'm always encouraging accountants or anyone to do is start small, start safe. And the reason I encourage you to do that is because if you're trying to leap from, this is my mask and I have to be professional, whatever that means to you, moving to 100% authenticity, in my experience, it doesn't happen overnight. I'm not sure about you, Andrew, and everybody has a different way. Some people do leap in overnight, but most people slowly, little changes over time. So if any of you are thinking, this all sounds good, but man, if I post something tomorrow and then suddenly I get this, there's a fear that you have, and you have to decide what to do with that. But I want to turn that to help you think about your clients, because what Andrew was saying is there's like, when it comes to showing who you are personally and as a firm, everything that you do is for your clients. Yes, this is who you are, but your marketing, your brand, like we always say, your brand is not for you. Your marketing's not for you. Your website's not for you. It's all for them. The client is the hero. They're the winner. You're just the guide. You're the one that eases them through that. So turning that thought of like, yeah, I have a lot of fears. You think about your clients and your prospects, their fears are huge about exactly what Andrew said. They have had bad experiences. They've been treated badly by accountants. They don't know what a good accountant is. They come to your website, to your social media, to your videos, and back of their mind, they're thinking, is this for real? Is this firm for real? Are these people for real? And the example given there of like, if you see the guy in the suit, leaning casually with the lighting coming in backwards, and then you come in and you see Andrew and he's got his whiskey glass and you're like, oh, and the right people will go, oh, awesome, brilliant, let's go faster. But when there's that mismatch, and this is how it affects your marketing and your brand, when there's a mismatch, subconsciously, they don't even realize this, it's causing them to wonder if you're for real. And if your brand and your marketing and what you're doing, if there's any mismatch, then it causes your buyer to hesitate a little. just to go, let me just check a little further. Let me watch a few more videos. Let me just ask a few more questions. Whereas when everything matches, when they come to your website and then they read your email and then they talk to somebody and then they see social posts, everything flows and everything matches, then they go, oh, okay. And so your brand is either causing people to hesitate and tap into their fears a little, or to hurry up and to go, man, these are my people. This is what I want. So, my message is really that good marketing divides. That's its job. Good marketing helps to take the right people, the people you want. In one sense, there's a good and a bad client for everybody, but your good client, like, somebody who's a great client for Andrew might not be a great client for somebody else. So it's just who you want. So your marketing is supposed to pull those people in and then send everyone else away. Make it super clear. Just be like, we are not your people. And that's totally cool. I've seen a lot of accountants recently, especially in these times, writing blog posts and sharing, here's some other local accountants or non-local that we think are great. Here's an accountant who's good in this niche area that we're not. Here's somebody who does this kind of tax planning so super well. That's so powerful because it means you know who you are. You know who your firm is and who it is not. So I want to encourage you to think about your prospects and remember they've got fears, they've got doubts, they've got concerns, whether they recognize it or not. Everybody does when you're thinking about working with somebody new. And what you're trying to do with your marketing, or hopefully your marketing is doing, is recognizing that their doubts are valid, that everything that they're feeling is okay to feel. Feelings are just feelings. It's not wrong to be angry as such. It just is pointing you to something that you need to deal with. It's not wrong for somebody to be a little unsure about whether this is the accountant for them. It's just pointing out that there's a mismatch there. So one of the things we're always sharing when it comes to brand, and I believe that brand is at the heart of everything. Like your brand is the heart of your marketing because it's that combination of who you are and who you serve. So your brand is not just who you are. You don't just say, well, we're this accountants, here's our people, here's our services. It's just as much about, well, the reason we are who we are is because we serve these kind of people. And the less clarity you have about who you serve, the harder it is for them to go, these are my people. So I'm constantly talking to accountants who are going, well, we want to, we love serving a variety of different people. We don't want to be too specific. What if we send people away? And in one sense, that's fine. It's fine if you want to work with all kinds of different people, but you need to be so specific that when somebody comes to your website, comes to your marketing, first, that there's always a match, everything fits together. And when they meet you, it's exactly the same as what they saw, whether it's virtually or in person. But also that they go, yes, this is me. When I read this message, I go, this is totally me. These are my people. They get me. They understand me. One of the accountants that we've got a group training course called the Accelerator, and one of the accountants on it wrote a blog on, I want to change accountants, but I feel really afraid. Like that was like the title of his blog. And then he talked about a client of his who said, here's my fears, here's what I have. And it's so powerful because he's tapping into emotions. And that's what marketing does. That's what your brand does, or that's what it's meant to do. So if your brand and all your marketing has been crafted to give this perception, like Andrew was saying, like, oh, accountants have to be like this. I mean, as much as this is a horrible time in this pandemic, that there's not good in that, but in all bad things, there are some good and some opportunities that come out of it. One of the things I've seen is that accountants are like, well, screw it. I may as well be who I am, because people are showing up on Zoom calls in their back bedroom, in a garden conservatory, in the garden with the, everybody's like, whatever, just be who you are because we're all doing it. So that actually is a good push. And I hope that those of you who are moving through this, whatever level that you're at, that one of the big lessons you're taking is my firm, me and my firm need to be who we are. And then you need to show that in your marketing. And this is, so what I wanted to share with you, and I've got a couple, I think it's 5. I've got 5 things that I wanted, some examples that I wanted to share with you about stuff that you can share visibly as an accountancy firm. I've got some examples from PF and from some of our clients. I've got some from GoProposal. And these are things that you can visibly show that help people to buy into who you actually are. So one of them is client stories. And I wanted to mention with this that a lot of firms have like quotes and testimonials, which is fine, that's a good thing to share, but there's an order to it. So in order to come up with great quotes from your clients about how great you are, you have to start with the story. How did they feel? What were their doubts and fears? What were their problems? Why did they come to you? What did you do? What results did you get for them, and how do they feel now? So one of the things I want to encourage you to do is don't just get people to say, I think Andrew is great. All the team at Illuminate are super people. They are really nice. Like, that could be any business in the world. Andrew could have a plumbing business and people would be like, Andrew's really great and his team is really great. You want to have, you want to tap into that. So somebody reads the story or the case study or the quote, I don't care, but that they go, oh, that's how I feel right now. Like when I was looking for a dentist, I had a major, unfortunately this was last year, praise the Lord, but I had a major issue and the dentist I had made everything worse and worse and worse every time. But I was nervous to pick a new dentist because I thought, I'm already in so much pain. What if the new dentist makes it worse? And then I went to the website of somebody that had been recommended to me, and they had Facebook reviews, so extra social proof. They had Facebook reviews of people that said, I had this issue. I felt like this. My previous dentist had made things, I was like, this is my story, but my story doesn't have a happy ending yet, but theirs does. And I read multiple ones of those. They embedded them. They had videos. They had all kinds of stuff, which helped me believe. I was scared to believe, but it helped me believe because I had the referral, I had the videos, I had the testimonials. So when you're doing testimonials or whatever, think about the whole story, get the whole story. Then you can build out a case study. Then from the case study, you can pull out a testimonial, which is a larger section, or just a short quote. And I would say it's not enough just to have quotes. That's a good start, but go deeper. So these are a couple examples. This is one of our clients who's just got some quotes here. So on their success stories, they've just got something. They recently redid their website and they're like, let's just put something there, which is great. At least have some specific things like, thank you for getting me through the first year with no major upsets. That's a very specific thing to be like, okay, first year, okay, that makes sense. This is from the MAP website, of which James is a director, and they've got a longer quote here. There's a little more like a story. And so theirs is like, this is what they've done. This is who's there. This is what they've done. This is how we feel. You know, if you're not working with them, what are you waiting for? And it's got, there's pictures of the people there. This is what's on the PF site. We actually write very extensive case studies on every single major project that we do. This is a couple screenshots from one of the firms in the States that we did a whole rebrand for, literally came up with a new name and a logo that matched with his this feeling of adventure and his time. He lived for years in Peru and there was all this that came in. So we wanted to tell the whole story. So you've got images, you've got quotes from Paul who's saying, this is how I felt. And we even tried to tell the bad news, or not bad news, but the, you know, the whole story, warts and all. So, you know, Paul's saying, I was really uneasy about this. I wasn't sure. There's some case studies where he said, we tried to go this direction, it didn't work. So we went another direction. Like, tell the whole story so people don't only see the highlights. Like Andrew's saying, this like Instagram life versus real life. I get really frustrated, especially on a bad day if I'm feeling really low and it seems like everybody else is winning and everybody else is triumphing. And then when they're like, actually, it's like this, you're like, okay, these are my people. Everybody's human. That's what you want to do as a company as well. So you got client stories, that's the first one. Second one is your kind of your way, your process, how you do things at your firm. At PF, we call this a cornerstone piece of content. cornerstone is the stone that holds up the whole rest of the building. It's at the corner, literally, but you start with that and then you add and add and add and add. And if you pulled that stone away, the whole building would kind of collapse. So having your way of doing things, your process, your style as a firm is going to help people go, okay, they're not just doing accounting the way everybody else is doing it. They have their own way. It might be very similar to other people's ways, but you've made it your own in a particular way. This might take a while to develop, which is fine, but whatever you've got. So one of our firms only works with interior designers, and they've created this manifesto thing that just says, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is why we work with interior designers. So they've got this PDF guide, which now they send it to people before they even have a discovery call, because they find that it weeds people out faster or brings them in, which is what it's supposed to do. I stole this from somewhere, the GoProposal manifesto. You guys still using this, James? No.
It's somewhere, it's lurking somewhere.
It's hovering. I like it though, because a lot of these phrases are very familiar. If you know James, or if you're a GoProposal member, you have heard him say version 1 is better than version none. Matter of fact, you probably heard lots of other GoProposal members quote it. So all of these little phrases, these aren't just phrases. They're real things that James says and his clients say because he says it. So like Andrew said, you can't just say stuff. It has to flow into who you are. I think a lot of things that accountancy firms do sometimes is figure out the stuff, like, okay, we need a manifesto. Well, you only need a manifesto if you know what you're going to say and you know who you are and you've been saying it for years. This is just a visual way to represent it. But once you have that, represent it visually so that you can explain faster. This is PF's marketing map. This is our cornerstone. We actually have been following this for years, but we turned it into a visual so that we could explain to accountants why it's so important to understand a little more about how marketing works for accountants and the buyers of accountancy firm services, then the 3 foundational areas of brand, website, and plan. As you can tell from what I'm sharing you now, brand is at the heart. If you don't know who you are and have your values and who you serve, what are you going to put on your website other than we're nice accountants, we're modern, we're forward thinking, we use cloud, blah, 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 blah. So you got to figure that out, then share it, and then you have a plan of all the other stuff that you do. This is another client who's got one for their onboarding process. This is their way of onboarding. It's not wildly different from every other accountancy firm, but it's theirs and it's branded for them. And this is just the first 6 months. Now they're working on an image for the kind of -3 to 0 months, you know, before you become a client, and then one for the client experience. So 6 months to forever. But having a visual helps people to go, okay, once they put this together and they put this on their website, they found they were sharing it with prospects more than anyone else. Because they're like, oh, so once I sign, this is what happens. And that's what people want to know. The last couple things are, you need to, I was going to talk about social media posts, but in order to have all your social matching, you need to be crystal clear about what your tone is and your style and the words you use and the images you use and the design you use. So having something like this is an example of what we put together. Very, very simple. This is not a full branding identity, but it's just a few things so that everyone at the firm knows these are the words we use. This is how we talk. This is the style we have. So have it at a bare minimum, have this and share it with the whole team. Video, I cannot stress this enough. Video is the thing that hurries buyers up the fastest. And what has encouraged me immensely is how many accountants have embraced video, even through great fear right now, because they're like, well, screw it. You know, what's the worst that can happen? Because my clients need help. I'm scared to do video. I don't think I'll do it well. I don't like how my voice comes across. I don't like how I look. But guess what? Clients love it. One of our clients, Ian Butler, also a GoProposal member, he shared a video in the GoProposal group to be like, okay, guys, I know you've been at me for years about video, and I finally did it, and I felt like it sucked, but guess what? My clients loved it, like immensely more. Video beats out blog content, PDF guides, website pages, all hollow. Doesn't mean you don't do those, but always have video. This is one of our clients in the States who just put the Black Sheep logo on a orange wall, and then all his videos are there. And there's lots of other ones. I know James does tons of video. It's a way for people to connect with you personally. And the final one is your people have to match all of those things. So it's not good enough to say this is our manifesto, to show your website all of this. Your people have to be on board with that. And that doesn't just mean here's pictures of our team and who they are, which is fine, but it's how do they present themselves at an event or on Zoom calls or in emails? How does it all fit together? Because your people need to live out all of these things. I won't go into detail on that because I think if you take everything Andrew said and apply it to your team as well, then that will help you live out all of the things that you visually share. So that's what I had to share in terms of brand. I know it's a short run through, but really remember that branding has to do with feelings. It's how your prospects feel and their doubts and their fears and how you triumph over them. And when you address that and then share it visibly, you get the kind of clients that you want coming to you faster. That's all I had. Cool.
Fantastic. Thanks, Karen. In that, would you say that part of what Andrew's talking about, if you believe in it, there's no loss in translation? You're not lost in translation. You're not trying to be somebody else. You are representing your true self in every way that you then are engaging, whether in person or not in person. But
yeah, you don't have to try as hard.
Sorry?
You don't have to try as hard.
Yeah.
You don't have to fight it so much.
Great.
Karen, one of the things that you know, we've been fortunate with Illuminati is to have a really beautiful website. But sometimes the struggle and the reality is that accountants' personalities don't have the conversational, the extroversion, the ability to take a really beautiful, well put together website with great journeys and blah, 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 and in real life execute that. How do you find, how are you finding people taking the ability to go from that digital representation to a human representation of it?
Yeah, I think actually this comes back to why I think it was so important to have your section first and then mine, because if you don't truly live this out, do not bother with the pretty looking website. Do not, because it's like trying a new app to solve an internal problem. If your team is not working on stuff in the right way, it doesn't matter what new app you use, you're just going to enhance the problems. So what I would say is, it's fine to have a nice looking website, but if that does not match, then you have to take a couple steps back and say, who are we actually? What do we actually stand for? What do we believe? What is our for real process? And work on that. And then your website and all your marketing is simply a visual representation of what you already do. So I think my answer, Andrew, is that a lot of accountants have done it backwards. Let's get the pretty looking website and then we'll sort out the internal stuff. And I would go the other way around. I've actually told some accountants, don't think you're ready to build a custom new website because you're not clear on your audience and your journey yet. So let's get that sorted and then we can build that.
Cool. So dive in.
Fire away.
So thanks, guys, and great talks from both of you. And I just want to pick up on what Andrew said. I just took all my notes that I had and just chucked them all away and just started this whole thing again, because I just think that the theme of authenticity, you know, is so key. And when I speak to a lot of accountancy firms, and I get to have some real challenging conversation with people. Just in the last few weeks, I've spoken to at least 3 accountants who have been in tears, you know, when I'm talking to them, because of the challenges and the pressures that they're under, and trying to help them to navigate these challenges. And a lot of it comes back to what Andrew said, which is about this idea of authenticity. And that very often people have this facade that they think they have to hide behind. And that it was really a screenshot, the image that Andrew shared, with the fact that that first person there has got this professional facade. And with that facade comes a lot of baggage, because what it means is, you're an expert accountant and then you find yourself running a business and you realize you're an amateur business owner, and it's really hard to bridge that gap, right? But accountants have an additional bit of baggage they bring with them, which is they're in the professional services business. They're a professional, okay? Which therefore there's an assumption that they've got all this stuff figured out. If you're a plumber, you can be an amazing plumber and say, but I have no idea about business. I have no idea about finance or marketing or anything. As an accountant, you don't feel that you can say that. So like in our community and any talks that I go, I always remind people, look, this is a safe place. And if you can drop your guard and just kind of be more vulnerable and show the challenges you're actually really facing, not only will you get more help, but it's going to align you with your clients, because at the end of the day, you're a business owner, like your clients are. And if you've got challenges, just like they have challenges, and the more you can align yourselves with them, the better you'll do. And a lot of the conversations I have with firms are just uncouple yourself from this thinking that you think you have to have. Let's just let go of that baggage there and just be you. You know, and Andrew's a fantastic representation of this in what he's managed to achieve. And, you know, you don't all have to grow beards and be like Andrew, but it's about being the best version of you can be, and not being afraid of that. And therefore that will attract the right type of people. I think what's really interesting at this time as well, guys, is people have been talking about disruption for so long. And when we've talked about disruption in the past, we mean we've got a bit of technology that's making things a bit quicker, therefore we've got disruption. We've had no disruption. Now we've got disruption. And I think what people really mean when they talk about disruption, and the people like Andrew that loves disruption and Paul Barnes that loves disruption, the reason why they love disruption, I think, is what it means is we've got a level playing field. We're no longer being judged on the fact that we've got a firm that's 100 years old, or the fact that you've got this big brand, or you've got these huge offices. What people want to be judged on is the value that they bring. I did a talk with some bookkeepers yesterday, in fact, and it was off the back of a little video I did, because I got a message from a bookkeeper saying, I'm just a bookkeeper. I'm like, what are you talking about? Just a whatever. You know, we've only been in practice for a year. We're just a startup. I'm only young. I've not got the qualifications that everyone else has got. I'm a woman. I'm just a bookkeeper. I'm whatever. It doesn't matter anymore. We're all being judged now on one thing, which is the value that we bring. And that's what we're here to talk about today. But then again, I think there's a lot of confusion around the word value. I see it being used in lots of things and lots of different ways, and value pricing. I don't even understand what value pricing is. I don't know what it means, right? And I help people with pricing. I don't get it. For me, value is really, really simple. It's how are you making a difference in people's lives? How are you showing up? How are you showing up in the business? What's the impact that you're actually making? And when I first started working with Matt, with my accountancy place, and we set up GoProposal, I'm going to talk to you about what this meant for me as a client, for me being a client, right? So I'm just going to share. I've got no slides prepared at all for this. What I'm going to show you is this. See my Facebook page? I'm always nervous about jumping on my Facebook page in case something's been popped up. This was last weekend. These are two of my children. I went for a walk in Padley Gorge, which is in the Peak District near us. This is my beautiful wife and two of our children on the same day. We went to the coast recently, all social distancing, you know, had the most amazing day. Went picking crabs, finding crabs. And this is my beautiful stepdaughter, Lucy. It was the 21st, and we had this social distance party in the garden. And this is my life, and this is what makes a difference for me. And you guys do some amazing things, accountants and bookkeepers, and you provide me with things like balance sheets and P&L and, you know, management accounts and executive summaries. And I don't care about any of it. I only care about what I've just shown you there, which is what is going on in my life and what is actually showing up. When we set up GoProposal, like, I'd had a business that had failed in the past. It was really important for me that I set up a business that was as storm-proofed as possible, that we got 3 months of overheads in the bank and just basic things. We never wanted to take investment because I wanted to be in charge of what we were doing. I wanted us to be a profitable business. I wanted to pick my kids up from school every day. I wanted my wife to leave work because she was a secure psychiatric mental health nurse and had been punched in the face and grabbed by the neck. And her job, it would always scare me when she went to work. I wanted the kids to be near their friends. It was really, really simple things. And the value that you bring is that, guys. That's the impact that you can make. That's what you can help your clients to achieve. And what I would say to people is, if you want to be more valuable in the world, if you want to be more valuable to the clients, you've got to know that stuff. If you don't know the fact that I want to pick Leo and Scarlett up from school every day, there is no way you can be giving me the most value you possibly can. And very often, I love you, and I'm saying this with as much love as I possibly can for you, is that you can sometimes become too focused on and too much in love with the services that you provide rather than with the impact that you're having. And it's about having a different conversation. And again, back to Andrew's point and what Karen's been talking about, being authentic, we can only do that when we drop that guard and realize that you're a mum, you're a dad, you're a whatever. And unless we start having those real honest conversations with clients, we can't serve them to the level we really want to be able to. And so that's my talk. That's my point. That's where I think we're all heading. And I think life becomes so much more exciting. You'll enjoy what you're doing so much more when you start to have these conversations. I don't have a lot to say about pricing really. My message on pricing is really boring. It's about be consistent with your pricing. Be consistently profitable with the way that you price so you can deliver the level of value you want to be able to deliver. That's it. I don't need to educate you on it. You're all mathematicians. You're all experts. You can all figure this out. And the key thing I really want you to take from this when it comes to pricing is be consistently profitable in every single service that you provide across every single client. We're profitable in our firm in bookkeeping, in payroll, in compliance, and in advisory. I've been saying for the last 3 years, compliance is not dead, despite what everyone else has been saying. Compliance is our most profitable work that we provide, our most profitable work that we do, because of the way that we charge for it and because of our efficiencies and the way that we deliver it. What we've seen in our firm, and I think this is fairly representative in other firms, a lot of our clients have cut back on advisory services through these times because they're not all relevant to them now, but they've needed extra support around payroll, and they've needed extra support around basic compliance and tax issues and legislations that the government's passed, right? And when all this hit, you couldn't charge more for it because we're all in this together. You were doing what Andrew's doing, which is working ridiculous hours, right? So just to be able to provide, it was whatever it takes. We're in this together. We're going to help you. Now, because we had the margins built in to those services, we were able to squeeze those margins and still be able to provide the extra levels of service that we just needed to provide as a profession and still keep our heads above water. The firms that have really struggled in this process are the ones who decided, let's not make money out of compliance. Let's not make money out of bookkeeping. Let's use that just to get people in the door. We'll make all our cash out of advisory. Well, you know what? People don't necessarily need that now. That's why we need those margins in there. I know of accountants who have furloughed staff. I know of accountants who have turned their phones off, who have turned their emails off because they're just not physically able to respond to people. And so the reason for charging properly, profitably, and consistently is not a selfish thing. If you don't do this, there is no way that you can deliver the level of value that we need. And sometimes I think the mistakes that we've made is the way that we've priced the services that we've provided to clients is in nice weather. And we've assumed this weather is going to hold. We've assumed everything's going to be great, that all the information is going to flow beautifully. Everything's going to be good. We're in the middle of a storm now, guys. We've got to sell our services to help our clients to be storm-proofed. And we've got to price as though we're going to hit a storm. This is a huge storm, but storms come in many different forms. And we have to really think that way. So that's really what I want to say on this, guys, is back to being authentic. I know it's hard. Back to making sure that you're delivering the value that you can to your clients. Guys, you've got the biggest, uniquest opportunity you're ever going to get in this profession, which is you've got a chance to hit reset with all your clients. You've got a chance to reestablish your relationships. If you're not happy with the way that you've set them up, with the value that you're providing, and with the way that you've been pricing these services, then you've absolutely got a chance to be able to do that now and to help your clients to make the right decision to move over to you. I'm just going to finish off on this point. We sometimes get hung up and be afraid to charge what we're really worth, to present all the value that we can to our clients, to have that really honest conversation with them and tell them what they really need, not just what they want. And then to say, and if you want that from us, then this is what it's going to have to cost. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to deliver that value. And we become fearful that clients don't trust that we can give that value, or that they're going to question us on price or whatever. The number one reason clients won't sign up with you, the number one reason is nothing to do with your price. It's because they don't trust themselves to make the right decision. For every reason that Andrew said, they've been to this accountant and it didn't work out. They've been to this one, it didn't work out. They've been to this one. They are now doubting themselves. They're now sat in front of Andrew. He's presented them with a proper set of services at the right price. If they're challenging him on the fees or the service, it's not because they're questioning him. It's because they're questioning themselves, because they've made so many bad decisions. And all Andrew's got to do, and all Karen's got to help people like Andrew to do, is to give them the confidence that, no, you found the person you're looking for. You can now trust yourself to make the right decision. And all I've got to do is give you that trust.
Great. Thank you very much, James. James, just on that point, I mean, I go back to one of the bosses I used to work with, and their model was all about, oh, Vipul spent 10 hours or 20 hours or 30 hours on a job, not necessarily was it done cost effectively and done well. And to give you an example, I trained the client over a 3-month period, whereby I actually reduced the time I spent by 3/4. And then the client went back to the firm and said, oh, can you reduce my fees? And they had a go at me. And I said, well, hang on a minute. Before, you were writing off 2 of the 4 days that I was working. So at least you've got that back. And why don't you do your job? And I mean, it seems a bit mad. I was this 25, 26-year-old, and that's probably why I could get away with saying it in this way. But go and get another client who you can actually bill me for, and I'm adding value to. And, you know, do you see that in terms of those are the ones that have perhaps suffered a little more than those that have genuinely been able to make a difference to their clients' lives?
Yeah, I think that's certainly part of it. If they've not got that pricing right, and you know, we work with some large firms, and there'll be some partners who get it and have got the pricing effective, and then there's some that haven't, and they're the ones that are really struggling because fundamentally, like, people will put all these blockers up and they'll talk about systems and I need to get this right, or it's a technology issue. No, it's not. The number one biggest issue that firms face is that they're just not prepared to have a really honest conversation with a client and say, look, you need to pay me a lot more money for this, right? Yeah. And have that difficult, or, you know, you're not a good fit for us, you need to leave like now, right? And just picking up the phone and having that honest conversation. People come to me and they'll show me email threads. I'm like, have you rang the client? No. Pick up the phone up and let's just talk to him. Let's just have a really honest conversation. And just the way that we price, I mean, the way that we advocate it, we GoProposal, but it's just a reflection of our firm, is it's got to allow you to give that value, but it's also got to allow you to improve your efficiencies. So we would charge based on the number of transactions, for example, with bookkeeping, not on how long it's taking us to deliver that bookkeeping service. So if we can deliver it more efficiently and faster and to a higher quality, we're not going to charge less for that, because we've kind of been able to develop ways to do that. We're still giving that great value to the client, and that's ultimately what the client's judging you on. And if they don't, you need to educate them on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say on that, like, what we have seen for accountants is the ones who have been very honest about how they price. And actually, a lot of our clients happen to be GoProposal members, and they have built, you know, pricing pages or fees pages or our approach to fee, you know, and we've always said, you don't have to say exactly how much the fees are. That's your choice. But what you do have to do is tell people that you have a methodology for it and it makes sense and it's consistent. Because if we go back to the fears thing, your prospect is fearing that you're going to charge them something and they're not going to know if it's right or wrong, good or bad. But as James says, the firms that go, well, we're pricing based on transactions. So if you have 100, your price is this. If you have 10, your price is this. And they go, okay, that makes sense. But then if they jump from 10 to 100, you have an easy way to go, well, actually, it's just going to go up because it's just a fact. And you've sort of stripped out the emotion and fears from the pricing bit so that you can focus all your attention on the person. So my encouragement to any of you as you're looking at the how do we tell people how we're doing this is have a clear way of saying this is our approach to it, but of course we want to talk to you so that we together can choose what truly is best for you, as opposed to this, you know, let's give you a bespoke package and they're like, based on what? Like, is this right? So it's that always thinking about their fears. And
it's interesting as well. Like, so the pricing isn't technically, to some extent, isn't connected to value when sometimes we communicate it. Reconciling 10 transactions isn't valuable to a client. Knowing that they have money in their bank is valuable to the client. Knowing that they have a profit that's coming through, knowing that they can pay their wage is valuable. And as James was saying, know that he can go out and hang out with his family, and that's what's valuable to him. But the way we price and sometimes communicate on pricing is actually connected to something that's not at all around value. So it's a moment where you have to kind of, you have to talk about how you price it, but you have to talk about the impact of said pricing and the impact of what you do. So it's almost like two conversations you're juggling at once. And one of the things we do at Illuminate is we have a golden question that we ask, and every client that comes along, and it just goes, if you could do one thing tomorrow morning, regardless of time, money, or location, with no restrictions at all, when you get out of bed, what would you do? And then our response is, we want to help to provide a service that ensures your business permits you to do that. Because most businesses don't allow you to do that. You're stuck in doing sales and marketing and finance and all the stuff that you don't want to do. So that allows us to say that. Then when we can come back with pricing and say, well, they're like, cool, well, you know what I want to achieve. So therefore, you're not just going to be like my previous accountant who would just talk to me for an hour about something that I didn't understand and then send me a bill for it that I assumed that that's what it was worth, but I didn't know. And we've done a bunch of research in ourselves, and one of the top 3 reasons why clients have come looking for an accountant and knocked on our door is they want an accountant who has their best interest at heart. So it's been proven beforehand that, or they felt like beforehand, that accountant does not have their best interest at heart, i.e. that accountant does not value them. Then if they feel like they're not valued, then they're not going to value the services happening. So they're looking for someone who gives a shit about them. And that's what we try to do in our approach. And I think that's what us as accountants and advisors in the industry can do, is like, how do I show someone that I care? And it's different because for different clients, they have different things. But what are we doing to show that? And literally, if I was in the UK a month ago, I would have been doing a whole presentation on purpose-based accounting and why it's my absolute passion on, we shouldn't be building businesses for profit. It's all about purpose. Profit is a secondary component of that. But I think it's a massive part of value is that what do people actually care about? And how do we ensure that we're delivering and communicating that? It's important because I know that I can be profitable based on transactions and speed and robot stuff that I can build in my business. But my client cares about their kids more than they care about the 100 transactions. That's what I need to communicate with them to get them comfortable to pay $1,000 when maybe they're used to paying $500 for it.
That's it. So I'm just going to add on that, Vipul, sorry. 100%.
Yeah, no.
Like, if you find out from your client that, you know, my biggest thing, I want to play golf in the morning or whatever. Cool. What do you play off now? What do you want to get your handicap down to? I want to get it down to 5. Cool. Then if every conversation your team has with him doesn't start with, where are we with the golf handicap? How many times have you played this week? They don't care about it. That's what I said to my team. Like, although we charge based on bookkeeping, like, I don't care about it. Like, you've got to be starting the conversation with me with how many times you pick the kids up from school this week, because the service you're providing me with enables me to do that, and the data I'm getting you enables me to do that. That's why the pricing bit is actually really quite simple. Like Andrew said, it people get hung up on it because in your head you think that the client's that bothered about it, but they're really not. You think that your client's got no money. They've all got a £1,000 iPhone in the pocket. They've all got a nice car on the drive. They're all going to go on holiday as soon as lockdown's over. They've got the cash. Pricing isn't an issue.
Yeah, there's so many cashed up bogans in Australia. I tell you what, as soon as the doors open, everyone's just spending money as much as they like. My cafe and hospitality clients, one of them day one, when he could only fit 20 people in his cafe when normally he could fit 65, turned over the same amount of money that he did pre-COVID in a day. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. But you bang on. And I'd also touch on, just to quickly agree yet disagree slightly with you, James. If you don't know anything about golf, you do not care about golf, and you have no understanding, that person will figure out that you don't give a crap about golf. So if you don't don't force it in a gross sales manner. You'll come across like a dirty salesman, and eventually they'll get over that. So if you don't, that's okay. But maybe that just means there's someone else in your firm that should be servicing that client who cares about golf or whiskey or whatever it is that that person has. And if you don't like golf, don't play it. It's plenty of fun. And I just wanted to touch on, sorry, Vipul, before you go, I really wanted to touch on authenticity, because this is something I hear. It's such a fad word. It's like so hot right now. And it was super like helpful for me to kind of grow a beard and do what I did right when authenticity became a thing, because I could speak about it a lot. But I want to make sure that like accountants and our industry, they deserve more than what the stereotype expects of them. The stereotype of the accountant says you can do something. You deserve more than that. The value you can drive your clients, the way you represent yourself, the way your business speaks, the way you price, everything is about breaking the stereotype that everyone thinks of accountants and shows them what we actually can really be.
Yeah.
We shut up now.
No. It's really important. And, you know, we were looking forward to seeing you give your speech over here, but it'll have to be at another time. But, you know, I come back to, and I know we've talked about this, why you do what you do. And Andrew, you very kindly shared your story, or at least part of it. And I think it's so important that when you get up in the morning, you understand who you are, what you represent. And we've talked about being consistent in your values. You know, what do you know, we talked about what is value. You know, James, what's important to him is different to what's important to Andrew, Karen, or me. But whatever it is, you need to understand that. And there are many people who've heard this before. I was never going to be an accountant, but I wanted to go into business. That was my number one thing as a teenager. And until my mother volunteered me for a summer in her accountant's office, who happened to be called David. But it totally changed my view on what an accountant did. And you say, well, because I was this 17-year-old kid who wandered into an accountant's office thinking all that I was going to do was add up numbers all day. And a lot of people did, don't get me wrong. But after a few days, I worked out that David wasn't one of those people. And I went and knocked on his door and said, David, I never see you doing accounts. And he shut the door on me, and it was one of these half panel, half glass things, and said, see all those people out there? He says, that's what I pay those guys to do. What I do is change lives. And he understood really what it was about. And, you know, I am very grateful. I had an amazing teenage and early adult life. Yes, my parents were more successful, but they had the guidance of a man who allowed them to follow their dreams, which was to give me and my sister a much better future. And, you know, none of what I do today would in any way have been possible without his involvement. And I put the £500 number up there because, again, I've shared this story. My uncle wanted to buy a business back in 1987. And he touted this business around all the banks, and all the banks said no, bar one, but with a caveat. Said, oh, your brother's quite successful. Maybe he can guarantee the loan. So, of course, Dad comes home and says, oh, we're going to guarantee my brother's loan. And my mother says, not a chance. And you say, well, hang on a minute. Don't you want to make his life better? He said, yeah, but I'll ring David. And David came round. 45 minutes later, he'd organised all the finance, etc., to make that thing happen. And he charged £500. You will not believe it. My uncle moaned about the bill. It was my dad that made him see, hang on a minute, you would not have this business without David's involvement. So pay the bill. Assume you bought the business 2 days late or 3 days late, whatever the number is, you bought it a few days later. The important bit is you have it. Today, he has multiple properties and multiple businesses. But most importantly, his kids and, you know, my cousins, One of them runs 3 dental practices. Would that have been possible for a labourer's son to have achieved without that first business? No. And that is what it's about. We genuinely, as a profession, have the ability to change lives, and we don't recognize it half the time. I put this on there about my mum. Both myself and my sister are accountants, and this is no word of a lie, the only other accountant she's ever cried over was the day that David said he's retiring, because he was there for the first 15 years of her business life and had been there at every turn. And when he wasn't going to be there, because he retired at the age of 55 for a very substantial price, he got a really good price. I've shared it. I'm not going to share it in public. I'll do it in a one-to-one or a face-to-face seminar when those eventually happen. So many of you know the number, but the important bit is he had an emotional connection and genuinely changed my life. I've had fantastic holidays and many other experiences because of this. And this is what it's about. What you really need to do is understand that. But if you're not talking to them, and to give you an example, whilst my mother's with the same firm, she has never had that same relationship with the partner group because perhaps they didn't get the values that my mum had. And that's what it's about. It's about them recognizing it, as both James and Andrew said, change the person that is serving you so that they're more engaged with the client. So I think it's really important that you do that. And when you do talk to clients, you'll understand what their values are. How do you do that? You know, I can just talk about some of the clients that we're working with. What they're doing is they're creating that time to make sure that they are having the time to engage. So what I'm sure a lot, Andrew, you're an example of a practicing someone in practice. What you're probably doing is during the working hours, doing lots of client-facing stuff, and then doing all the other stuff that doesn't need you to talk to the clients outside of it. Hence, you're working really silly hours. And it's really about finding the balance. And you know what we're seeing with our own clients is they're using us more to try and give them and their teams the time. So you know, why do you want to? Hang on, let me just do that. Just a reminder for anyone who's got questions, please pop them in the Q&A so that once we kind of get to the end of my bit, and you know, I ask the other members of the panel to chip in. Yeah, if you can put that in, that'd be great. They want to do more of what they like and more of what their clients want, because that is really what value represents. But if you don't believe in it and all you're about is, oh, I want to earn X, I think that is where the disconnect lies. People will value you more. As I said, my David, he got his bill paid. Why? Because he made a difference to that person. And this is 1987 for less than an hour's work. But what did he do? He changed a family's future. And that's what we're seeing with the firms that are actually engaging with clients, having those better conversations. Even through this period, they are billing record amounts. You know, I know James shared something about what his firm's doing, but that's what it's about. If you're engaging, if you're having those conversations, it's really difficult for a client to say, no, I'm not going to pay you. If you just don't turn up, you don't answer the emails, or you don't respond to social media messages that your clients are trying to get in touch with you about, you know, things that are genuinely worrying them, then that is what is going to cause you to not generate that. So this is, what does that look like in a firm? This is what the firms are doing. And you know, James, you talked about this yourself, helping clients generate, you know, get the grants, get the loans that they're able to. But longer term, what does that achieve for your firm? And it's about adding value, and you can't do that unless you're engaged. I mean, I can talk about what we do, etc., but ultimately it's about making a difference to your clients. Did you guys have anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, not particularly, in the sense that I think all of these things tied in so well together. And I like the point that we started with, which was that Andrew's talking about you have to believe it and be it. And then I was talking about how you have to show it visibly. And James is talking about how you represent that in your pricing, not because of the sake of pricing. And I just wanted to highlight that point that I thought was really good, was that you're not doing this to make more money. You're doing this to help more people, which causes you to make money in the right places. You know, some people's fees will go up, some people's fees will go down, but they will be happier and they'll be more connected with you. So it'll be more real. And then that's all I want to encourage all of you to do, is to actually be real, because that's the thing that lasts.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things, can you hear me, is just, I've said this a few times now, but the way you start any relationship is the way you start every relationship. And a client relationship is no different to, you know, a personal relationship with a friend or an intimate relationship. And it has to be built, you know, you have to be yourself, but it also has to be built on honesty and transparency. We've got a thing in our firm, which is if anyone ever said to us, how did you market to us? How did you sell to us? How did you arrive at this price? Why have I got this set of services? Why did you sell me this set of services? You should be able to tell them. Like, you've got to be completely honest and be able to say, oh, you can't say, well, we've got this weird psychological sales technique that we use, right? We put the fear of God into you. And then what happens is you always spend this amount with us, or we use this crazy marketing technique that makes you think we're this good, but we're actually only really this good. Everything's just got to be real, because like as Andrew said to start with, when you get into it, you'll be found out really quick. And if you cut your firm through the middle, whatever you're saying on the outside has got to be represented on the inside with what you're doing. So I just believe in honesty and transparency. I think it's partly because I'm from a mining village in the north of England, and if you weren't anything other than that, you'd just be smacked in the mouth. It's quite simple, you know. It's like, so you've just got to be real, you know. Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, yeah. My dad used to work in the local pub when he first came to England, and they had a standing rule: if there's a fight, duck. And so, you know, from a very young age, I've been very conscious of where I've come from, and you know, genuinely value that the change that my life has taken. But none of that would have happened without them being honest about who they are, what they are, and then that translating to us as kids and what we then do in our lives. I happen to be in business, but if I'd have been working, I'd like to think that I'd take those same values into the workplace, and I'm sure I have, sometimes to my detriment, but I was nothing other than myself. That's for sure.
I just wanted to make a quick note on the comparison game too. I've talked to James about this a few times, and I, like, everybody does it. That's the first point. We all compare ourselves to other people, other accountants, other business owners, whatever. And certainly from the people I've been talking to, that the temptation for that rises a lot higher right now. So you equally have like more opportunity, but there is also that danger that you'll be like, oh man, like, you know, look at Andrew, look at what he's doing. Look at James, look at what he and MAP have achieved. Look at this person, look at this person. And if anything, you know, that I personally have been seeing is that the benefit of this time is that you actually turn and go, what am I really, really good at? What are my clients actually saying? Because all of you are getting so many compliments constantly from your clients right now, which is so great. And I just want to encourage you to listen to that, because if you're anything like me, it's tempting to quickly believe something that's negative or fearful, but take time to believe the kind words and the victories and the wins. And that's part of just being an entrepreneur and business owner and creative. You're trying to be better. But I just want to encourage you to, if you've got multiple things, you've got some hard things and some good things, really focus on trusting the good things and the good stories and the victories and the wins, because that is reflecting who you truly are. It doesn't mean that you don't try and be better, but it's not about comparing yourself to other accountants and are you doing what they're doing. It's about really getting to know who you actually are and getting comfortable with that.
Yeah, and I think the clients will see through that, especially at this time. You know, if you haven't picked up the phone to them, and they hear of other accountants who have, I think they will then feel, perhaps quite rightly, that why didn't I get that phone call? And we've seen firms that are making those, even to the smallest of clients, then getting bigger victories. But the biggest victory is that they've helped that client when they've been tearful or feeling stressed at that particular moment in their life. You know, when all of this happened, when people can't see through the fog, if you're able to help them at that lowest moment, I think that is, for me, the key to what everyone in our profession should be doing. As I said, the reason that I came into this at all was because of what David said. He says, I change lives, I don't do accounts.
It's great. Guys, this has been really fun. Obviously, it's like 9:30 at night here, and I reckon
We're just
for a whole bunch more. Like this is good. Like what I love is the fact that we've gone from fluff to practicality. I often find they play in fluff too often of this lovely hypothetical idea of how everyone can be authentic, but bring the practical nature out of that. And I guess the encouragement to those who've been a part of this today is you've heard some really cool, interesting ideas, and then we've worked and made it more practical. Is what is it that is that practical application that you can take out of that? And how do you understand that? And I think, you know, as I keep drumming out, is like we need you the way you are, the way you're made, the way you deliver, and people out there need that. And if I can finish with a joke, why can't you fart in an Apple store? They don't have windows. There we go. Yeah, it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn.
Yes.
Good.
1:30 at night. I haven't got much, all right?
I'll give that, man. That's good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all very much for your time today. Those of you at home, hope you're all staying safe, and you know, watch out for the next webinar. We've got another one planned shortly, so we'll be letting you know about that. But fantastic. Sleep tight for those of you on the other side of the world, and hope the rest of your afternoon goes well today. And yeah, keep in touch. Thanks again.
See you in May. I'll see you in May.
Next year.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.